I woke up one summer morning not to birdsong, but the steady hiss of water, too loud for the old pump. Bleary-eyed in my robe, slippers still half on, I stumbled outside and saw it. A thick green hose snaking under the fence like a snake, siphoning every last drop from my private tank. At the other end was Emma Carlton, head of the Meadowbrook HOA, kneeling quietly in her garden, watering her flowers as if nothing was amiss. And that's when it hit me. She was stealing my water. For 2 weeks, my water pressure had been acting up, livestock troughs filling half normal, the pump wheezing like an old man. I chalked it up to summer strain, maybe a clog or low solar backup. But when I saw that hose, well, denial wasn't an option. Let me take you back a bit. I'm Jack Turner, live on 5 acres just outside Meadowbrook Estates. Quiet place, friendly neighbors, until Emma got elected HOA president. She came in with this pristine image, mower always running, flower beds glowing, sprinklers spraying like Niagara Falls, and every other yard had to match her vision. She set the rules, bins in by 6, grass cut to perfection, no sidewalk chalk for the kids. But little did we know, her lush oasis was powered by my well. I didn't jump to conclusions that first day. Instead, I scouted the fence line in the afternoon. No confrontations, no shouting. I marked where that freakishly thick hose entered my property and made a plan. That night, I hid a trail camera in a hollowed-out birdhouse aimed at the valve junction. Motion triggered, infrared lights, the whole works. I've always believed that if you're going to accuse someone of theft, you better have proof. Next morning, I checked the footage. Emma's handyman, more sweat than sense, creeping through her backyard, wrench in hand, disconnecting a pressure lock I didn't even know existed, then bolting on a T-splitter. He connected the hose, bolstered the junction, and walked off like he owned the place. Timestamp, 10 nights straight. Every while I slept or hit town meetings, they had been siphoning off my water, gallons at a time. I confronted Emma the next day. She opened the door like I'd interrupted her spa routine, hair tousled, hose in hand like a weapon. I kept my voice steady. Emma, I noticed a hose crossing the property line into your garden. I'd appreciate it if you stopped. She looked at me like I was a fly buzzing near her companionable rose. Then she laughed, big, mocking laugh. Jack, you're being silly. That's just neighborhood plumbing. She told me to take it up with the HOA. But within hours, I received a formal violation letter accusing me of causing unrest and unauthorized accusations. The board had backed her story, and suddenly I was the cranky neighbor disrupting unity. That evening I called Roy, old buddy who's worked at the county utilities office for years. He owed me a favor after I patched his barn roof during a storm. I asked, who owns that utility line under our properties? He pulled out files. 15 years ago during a drought, I had licensed my well as emergency overflow with signed contracts. But those expired 6 years ago. After that, the overflow line legally reverted to my property. Suddenly, Emma wasn't just taking from me. She was hijacking a private utility and rerouting it to her entire development. I brewed another pot of coffee and smiled for the first time. That night, I installed a hidden flow restrictor deep in the valve box, small enough to go unnoticed, but it reduced the output drastically. The next morning, Emma's yard started showing it. Browning edges, wilting hydrangeas, her fountain dribbling. And predictably, the HOA fired back with another letter, this one threatening a fine for disrupting community water balance unless I restored the shared resource within 7 days. That letter was gold. I assembled all my evidence, trail cam footage, expired contracts, pressure logs, and HOA threats. 2 days later, Roy came by in his county truck, tool belt swinging, coffee in hand. She's tapped into your overflow, he said, eyes wide. Any hiccup and their system could backflow or collapse. He installed a locked shut-off valve on my side and a digital pressure monitor with phone alerts. All I had to do was wait. Morning came with Emma loading mulch into her SUV, looking flustered, eyes narrowed. We exchanged a few calm, loaded lines. Having trouble with your hoses? I asked quietly. She glared and drove off. That afternoon, neighbor calls started coming. My sprinklers are dry. Emma said city issues, some sabotage. None had any contract. All believed her setup was legitimate. None knew they were drawing from my well. Within 3 days, pressure leaks turned into total service loss. Emma's empire collapsed. Neighbors realized they'd been paying her for something toxic, a private racket powered by my water. Outrage spread. I stayed out of the fray, avoiding drama while the storm gathered. Then came the HOA emergency meeting. Emma strode in, red blazer, power smile, clutching her printed defenses. She launched into her impassioned speech about community harmony and my sabotage. I stood quietly until she paused, then walked forward with my evidence folder. I laid it out, photos, videos, data logs, and pressed play on the clip. Emma's handyman caught bending over my valve in the dark. Room went silent. A gasp, a cough. The HOA chair leaned in and asked, "You have proof?" I nodded. Roy's certified documents were there too. Any hesitance faded. A vote was taken. Emma was stripped of her position on the spot. Her supporters left quietly. Her empire fell in one motion. She stormed out. I didn't cheer. I didn't gloat. I packed up and walked home under the lamplight, smelling cut grass and victory. Her yard behind me wilted. She no longer waved. But that night, something clicked. This wasn't just about water. It was about trust and transparency. So I dug deeper, county documents, old easements, utility addendums. Found that the HOA contract expired, no renewals. The line belonged to me, fully mine. I went to the hardware store, carved a sign reading, "Private water supply, access by permission only. HOA use prohibited." Posted it right next to the valve. Next morning, Emma walked her dog past the fence. She slowed when she saw the sign. We locked eyes. No words, no wave, just finality. Days later, an HOA contractor knocked asking if they could negotiate a new shared access contract. I said I'd consider it only if the HOA publicly apologized, refunded all fees Emma collected, and agreed to market reimbursement. He smiled and left. Word got around. Neighbors, embarrassed, came forward asking to pay me directly. I told them I wasn't a water merchant, not until the HOA made things right. The local reporter ran the story, the man who owned the water. It wasn't sensational, just truth. The board, embarrassed, cleaned house. They voted Emma off her role permanently. I got a letter from the new chair, thanking me and asking to negotiate shared access via formal contract, fair oversight. I didn't reply yet, still thinking. Morning came with calm. No more pressure alerts. No hoses under fences. I walked past the tank and valve, custom sign gleaming in early sunlight, and felt peace. But here's where it gets interesting. What comes next? The tank and overflow line sit at the intersection of private property and community need. Neighbors need water. The HOA needs trust. Me? I want fairness, not power. So I drafted a simple proposal, transparent contract, meter readings, shared revenue for communal upgrades like rain barrels and drought gardens, community repairs. I met with the interim board on my lawn. Gloria, the retired principal who stepped up, listened without judgment. They agreed to a 6-month trial, legal framework intact. Volunteers planted a shared garden with overflow water. A licensed plumber installed flow meters. Monthly reports, fair billing, community meetings replaced passive-aggressive emails. The sign next to the tank now read, "Shared with permission." One evening, I saw Emma across the street, shoulders slumped, dog at her side. She hesitated, approached, and said quietly, "I came to apologize. I know I was wrong." No reruns, just quiet acknowledgement. I nodded. It's not about me anymore. It's about fixing what's broken. She walked away without drama. I didn't say anything more. We both understood. Months passed. The garden thrived. Kids collected squash. Neighbors swapped stories. The HOA held a vote to formalize resource sharing policy. They asked me to speak, not as hero, but as neighbor. I spoke about boundaries, trust, and how easy it is for good intentions to turn bitter when unchecked. The vote passed unanimously. No more Karens. Not because people stopped being difficult, but because the system changed. One evening I passed by Emma's old address. Her yard looked sun-scorched, her hydrants cold. I felt no satisfaction, just relief. The water flowed clear, shared fairly. I'm no longer just some guy with a tank. I'm a steward of a shared resource. That role wasn't sought, it found me. By the front porch, a wooden plaque reads, "Steward of the source." It's not arrogance, it's accountability. And yes, I still check that tank each morning under dappled light, grateful for boundaries respected. So here's what I want to know from you. When a system breaks, do you hold the line or extend a hand? Where do we draw the boundary between personal ownership and communal responsibility? Have you dealt with HOA overreach? Share your stories below. Let's talk about fairness, governance, community, and whether water truly belongs to anyone or to the people who remember it flows best when shared.